All kinds of people around that table. All kinds of people around that table. One of these days, hallelujah. All kinds of people around that table. Sit at the welcome table one of these days. One of these days.
I love how we all come together on Thanksgiving, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, from all of our three services. It's really symbolic of what we hope for in the world in terms of people coming together, people who might believe differently, worship differently, sing differently, have different kinds of musical styles. We come together, we share it together as one family, one church family, one community, and hopefully someday the whole world can come together across beliefs, across differences, across our different cultural styles and music and all kinds of things, and really appreciate each other and really feel like one family, the family of humankind. We've been singing, we've been hearing our youngest children singing about the welcome table. One of these days, we're all going to feel welcome around the table. Isn't it what we all want, really, to be welcome around the table, be welcome in our communities, be welcome in our cities, be welcome where we go? It's what we all want. It's what we want for each other. And we come to church really to practice the world that we want to live in. And we sometimes it's hard every day to treat your neighbor well and to be a good person and try to do all the right things. But we certainly come on Sunday to remind ourselves of our ideals and to lift those things up that we want to make real in the world. It's a holiday of abundance, Thanksgiving. And we have an abundance of a lot of things. Right now, there's an abundance of fear in our country. There's an abundance of hate even. There's an abundance of feelings of separation and division and polarization. But there's also an incredible abundance of love, an incredible abundance of goodwill and good-heartedness. And so let us not, in our fearfulness, forget the incredible abundance of love that is surrounding us and that is right here in this community. When I think about the story that we celebrate, the first Thanksgiving story, it was an exceptional moment. It was an exceptional moment when these two communities came together, and both these pilgrims, these Europeans who had come over, they were trying to escape persecution. They were not being allowed to practice their religion. They were not being allowed to be themselves, and they went to find some place, took great risk to find some place where they could just be who they wanted to be, fully live their religion and be away from persecution. And they came, and it was a terrible year. They lost half of their people, men, women, and children. And then the native peoples, who were obviously scared of who are these strange folks who've come to our land, what's going to happen, all this difference. There were no books about it to read, about difference and getting along. At the end of this winter, the native peoples, the Pequots, seeing these Europeans dying and suffering and struggling, they decided, in the face of their fear, to reach out in love. In the face of fear, they decided to choose trust, and they decided to choose love, and they came together, and they greeted these folks, and they began to teach them how to live and survive. And then at the end, when the harvest came, this time of year, when all the abundant harvest had come, they decided to make a meal together and celebrate. It actually wasn't just one meal, it was 3 days of games and music and sharing different foods and songs and teaching each other about each other's culture. It's pretty incredible when you think about it. People coming together across such differences. And it's exceptional. It was an exceptional moment. It's not one of the problems is that sometimes people use that story. It seems like in the lore of our country, we use that story as if that's an example of the coming together of Europeans and the native peoples. And we know that that's not how the story turned out, but that was an exceptional moment. And I think of these exceptional moments. Do you remember the story of in the First World War, there was the Christmas truce? Have you ever heard about that? There was a Christmas day, and the soldiers on both sides, the Germans and the Americans, they decided on Christmas Eve to put down their weapons, and they spent Christmas Day sharing, playing soccer together, singing songs together, sharing the food that they had. And it was an incredible moment. And then when Christmas was over, they got back behind the lines and the war continued. But it would be crazy to take that moment and use that as, well, and that's a reflection of what World War I was like. It clearly was not like that. That was an exceptional moment, an incredible moment, and that's why we tell and retell the story, like the Thanksgiving feast. That's not the encounter of European people and Native people. We're still struggling with that. But there was an exceptional moment. And we celebrate these exceptional moments. In church, we try to practice being exceptional and having exceptional moments, coming together, loving our neighbors, being one community. So the thing was that with the Native community and the Europeans, they weren't able to sustain that coming together across cultures and coming together across difference and sharing what they had beyond that short little period of that exceptional moment. But we can. And the reason we can is because we come together and we've created a community and we've created a set of values and a covenant around which we can continue to sustain these exceptional moments and continue to learn and practice. And right now, considering everything that's happening in our nation and our world, it really matters that we keep learning to practice. What does it mean to be a person of integrity in a time of great fear and challenge? What does it mean to be a person who tries to love their neighbor in a time when there's all kinds of hate in the world? We come together to try to learn and teach, and we're going to stay together, and we're going to be together, and we're going to create a community here that is continuing to grow and welcome more and more people. I just want to say that if things turn out the way that some people fear they're going to turn out, there's one thing that we can trust: the abundance of love in this community. We will be there for each other. We will be there for one another. And I've already reached out to the imam in this community and shared with him that All Souls is here. If the world turns on them, if the country turns on the Muslims, All Souls will be here. You know how to reach me. And it's true of every single community. It's a scary time just because the most powerful, soon to be most powerful person in the world has named specific communities by name and talked about doing things to target such communities in certain ways. And so it is a fearful time, and yet there's an abundance of love. And one of the places where we find that love is right here with one another. We've been practicing how to be an inclusive community at All Souls now for years. And it's times like these when it really becomes important. And so our Vision 2021, says that we try to embody here the world that we hope will exist outside these walls someday. But we can't control everything out there, but we can control what we do in here. So let us continue to embody this kind of love and inclusion and coming together, and let us be a model, and let us be a source of hope for the rest of the community that we're in. But this also begins with our own families on Thanksgiving. I know some people are a little worried about the families and the conversations around the Thanksgiving table this year. And I just want to say a couple things about that. One is that it's really important that we be the exception. That we don't just get into the fights, and we actually listen. We use the skills that we've been learning in here with one another out there in our families and in our homes and at our Thanksgiving tables. And the biggest piece is listening. I mean, one of the things we've learned is how can you be in relationship with people who are different from yourselves, really different, believe different, think different, act different, love different? We tried to figure out how to do that, and we've been learning how to do it by listening and saying, okay, you do something differently, you think differently than me, hey, let me try to understand you. And we listen. And the problem with the current dialogue and the fears of many Thanksgiving meals that are out there, I think, are that when we ask somebody a question, it's so quick. We're so quick to jump on each other and start to argue instead of just really listening. We may not like what we're hearing, but we got to listen and try to find out, because underneath that is somebody's fears, somebody's hopes, somebody feels strongly about whatever position they have. My colleague and good friend, the Reverend Dr. Jacqueline Lewis in New York City, she said last week from her pulpit, this is not a time to have one of those Thanksgivings where we avoid the question. We just won't talk about it. That this isn't a year to not talk about it. We need to talk about it. And what she says is, instead of confrontation, we need to have care-frontation. We need to talk about it. And there's going to be differences of opinions, but we need to learn how to do it in a way that's caring and loving and open, and that actually creates dialogue. She suggested 4 questions that we can ask one another over the Thanksgiving table and just in our lives right now. And I'll post these up on our Facebook page if you're looking for them later, if you need to reference these later for your holiday. The four questions are, who did you vote for? That's number 1. And number 2 is, what were you hoping to accomplish by voting for that person? And it goes both ways, right? It goes both ways. And what were you hoping to accomplish with your vote? And then the third question is, how are you feeling now? And the fourth question being, is there anything that we can do together to accomplish these things that are so important to us? That's the kind of level of dialogue that we need to bring into the public square, but also it begins in our own homes and our own families. And can we really listen? Can one person listen to another person when they say, well, I want to make sure that there's reproductive choice and reproductive options for all women? And can the other side listen and not just start yelling? And the same thing goes the other way when someone says, well, I want to, block immigration, or I'm afraid of Muslims, or whatever the other side is. Can we just listen and try to hear what's behind that without starting to yell, what do you mean? You want to protect traditional marriage. Really? Okay, help me understand. What is it that you want? Can we listen deeply and try to understand without feeling like we need to try to solve the problem by yelling down that person's throat? Because that's where I think we fall down. I had an uncle growing up who was a racist, and he was anti-Semitic, he was everything. And he was the classic sort of uncle who comes to visit on Thanksgiving. And so that uncle, right, if I use him as a sort of a symbol, that it's easy to that person to become the lightning rod for all of our anger and everything we're feeling, and you go, yeah, what, how could you believe that? How could you do that? We're yelling at the whole half of the country or whatever that we don't agree with. But the truth is that we really need to try to use it as an opportunity to listen and try to understand, because as soon as we do that, we just further the polarization and the divide. But if we can truly try to listen to one another in our homes, if not in our homes, then where else, can we actually just try to listen and not feel like we have to try to convince one another, but be in true dialogue with each other? That's about being the exception, and it's about being a model of the kind of world that we hope will exist out there. We try to do it in here every week. We practice, and we're going to keep practicing, and we're going to, in these times more than ever, it's important. And I hope we can not just practice it in here. This is a rehearsal for life. Every Sunday and every time we come together as a church, as All Souls, we are rehearsing for the world and the life that we hope to live. And it's hard to do it every day, every hour, every week, but let us continue to do our best, and let us try to be a model of the world we want to live in. There is an abundance in this world. There is an incredible abundance in our community, in our lives, and one of the things that there's an abundance of is love, a desire for a better world, a desire to create a real welcome table. The communion, we celebrate communion on Thanksgiving. It's a tradition here, and it's meant to be that kind of a welcome table. It's meant to be a place where we break bread and wine together, symbolically. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone's welcome at the table, especially our communion table. It's everybody. It's not for believers or non-believers or this or that or Jewish or Christian. It's for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're rich. It doesn't matter if you're poor. It doesn't matter if you're young, old, sick, black, white, gay, straight. Whoever you are, the idea is it's a ritual. It's a rehearsal for the world, the welcome table that we hope to create as America, as All Souls, and in our own lives. So a place where we can all stand together, knowing that in that moment, and in some deep, fundamental way, we are all equal, and we are all brothers and sisters and siblings in this world. Let us give thanks for the abundance of our lives. Let us try to be the exception as much as we can, and let us hold up each other in love. And when we fall down, and when we make a mistake, and when we don't live out our ideals perfectly, let us forgive ourselves and one another and start over again in love. Happy Thanksgiving. It's great to be together.
When we hear a certain call, when the world must come together as one, there are people dying. It's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all.
We can't go on pretending day by day that someone somewhere will affect a change. We are all a part of God's great big family, and the truth, love is all we need.
So they know that someone cares, so the cries of help will not be in vain. We can't let them suffer. No, we cannot turn away right now. We need a helping hand. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a better day. So let's start giving.
There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true.
Feel the love in this place. Feel what you're feeling right now. Hold on to that feeling. Know that there is an abundance of goodness, abundance of goodwill, love, and care for humanity. There is an incredible amount of compassion in this place, in this community, and in this world. Go out from this place. Bring that love. Bring the hope you feel right now when you see these children and these people singing. When you are surrounded by this kind of love, don't think that it only exists here. It exists out there because we are the world. We are the ones. We are the people that will make this country a great country where everybody is welcome at the table. Please know that we are taking this love and we are taking this moment very seriously. This congregation, we are assigning representatives from All Souls to be meeting with the Mexican, Hispanic, Latino, Latina community, the gay and lesbian community, the Muslim community, every community that's been named and targeted in this campaign. We have representatives who are going to be meeting with them and making sure that they know All Souls is here for them and we understand what is needed. This congregation will be a sanctuary when needed. This congregation will be a place that will wrap its arms around one another as one family. Inside these walls, outside these walls, there is an abundance of love and goodness, and you are a big part of it. Go and be blessed and be a blessing. Happy Thanksgiving.
We are your church, and we are proud to be your church, or at least a church that's having a positive impact on your life. I am personally blessed to be your minister, or at least a minister who you're allowing to speak into your life. I hope you'll support our ministry and share your love beyond belief by texting LOVEBB to 41444 or go to our website. But you can just text LOVEBB to 41444 and make your gift. It's wonderful. Thank you. Be blessed and be a blessing.